Unscripted, unshackled, uncouth.
What you're about to hear is for more mature audiences only.
It's Miguel and Holly, Uncensored.
Hello, and welcome to the podcast. Sorry, I'm trying to get... Where's Michael?
Ooh, you got someone cute behind you.
Can you see it?
Not really.
No.
No? There we go.
Oh, okay.
I'm just going to leave him right there.
Michael Myers is back there.
So, obviously, if you're listening, you can't see Michael Myers. But if you see us, but we're always streaming Miguel and Holly Uncensored on the Hits 961 and the Miguel and Holly Facebook pages, Miguel and Holly YouTube channel, and then obviously wherever you listen to podcasts, please give us a 5-star rating. We'd appreciate it. And don't forget, we have other podcasts too that you can listen to on demand. All you got to do for like Miguel and Holly Full Show, you can type that anywhere, or Miguel and Holly's Blown Off, or Am I the A-Hole, or Queen City Confessions. You can listen to that wherever you listen to podcasts. Before we get started for our special spooky edition of Miguel and Holly Uncensored, we have a special shout out, Holly.
We do. We have to wish a very happy 10th birthday to Lakin in Robinson, Texas.
Oh, wait, hold on. It's coming in hot for Holly. I can tell by the way she's like,
my ears.
I'm like, it's okay. I'll just shout about it. It's okay. You can play it. It's a happy birthday. So here's the thing. Lakin's dad, Rudy, has been a Miguel and Holly fam member for probably like a decade now. I mean, like we're talking like back in Panama City days.
Oh, wow.
I don't even remember the origins, Rudy. I apologize. But I met them when I was at a remote in Panama City one time. So he's been keeping up with the show for a very long time. And his daughter Lakin is 10 today. I know they do some amazing like Halloween decorations at their house that I see online and stuff. So they've been Platypus Posse and just fam members for a really long time. So happy birthday, Lakin.
I love it. Happy birthday. Yay. Hold on one more time, even though it's going to bust Holly's eardrums
That's
out.
okay.
Happy birthday to you.
Mm-hmm.
Happy birthday to
Who
you.
sings this?
You don't know who sings this?
I don't. Am I supposed to know?
Yes. Stevie Wonder.
No, he wouldn't necessarily know.
Yeah.
He's like 29.
9. Whatever.
I was like, well, with it being a spooky season, we thought that we would reach out to people or person who knows all things spooky Charlotte. So to the Platypus Posse watching right now, please give a special Miguel and Holly Uncensored to Jason. Oops, I just took everybody off. To Jason with SpookyCLT.
Yay!
Yeah. Now, Jason, tell us about SpookyCLT and what it all that you all do.
Yeah, so it is a Instagram page at SpookyCLT, where I am doing my best to chronicle all things spooky about Charlotte, whether it be ghost stories, fun history, events that are going on in the area, connections to horror movies, just really anything that falls underneath that very, very, very wide spooky umbrella. I try to shed light on it. I do the best I can.
Now, it's you and your wife that are into all of these spooky things. How did you all get into it? Was this something that you two attracted you to each other?
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah. So we met 6 years ago through a dating app. Both of us were interested in spooky things independently. For me, it was more so horror movies. And like local lore, and for her it was all like the ghost shows, ghost hunters, that type of thing. And then we had that interest independently, but like when her and I got together, it kind of just blew up for both of us. And the whole point of the Instagram account was like, you know, there's this rumor going around that Charlotte has no history or culture. So us making the Instagram account was kind of like our way of proving people wrong and doing the best we can to, you know, get that type of stuff out there. Because when we looked, we couldn't find anything. So we are doing our best to make it fun and interesting and accessible.
Now,
Ooh, that's interesting.
Right? So wait, but before we dive into that part of it, because that's it's really fascinating that you say that. I did want to address what we talked about right before we went on about how we didn't even realize that we were sitting right in front of you, Kelvin and I, when we went to see Halloween Ends at the little special premiere. And we talked about it on our on-air show about the homeboy that would not stop talking. Now,
uncomfortable.
were you were sitting next to him?
Yeah, that's my friend Chris.
Oh, it's your friend. It's
I'm perfectly okay with throwing him onto the bus. So I got the tickets. Like Universal sometimes sends us stuff like that, just like with y'all. And so I went with my friend Kevin, and like I put it out there for whoever, like, hey, I have these free tickets, come. And then last second, you know, he walks to the door. So I'm like, hey, I have these 2 seats next to me. He sat next to me. Yeah, he would not shut up the entire movie. That is his personality. He's a goofball. But
Did you know he was a
That's a
movie
word.
theater talker when he picked the tickets up?
well, yeah, because it's happened before.
Oh,
You just never
Yeah.
were like, hey man.
So when the person in front of us turned around, was like, are you going to talk the entire time? I was like, thank God. I didn't want to say it. And, you know,
Jason, this is
phone
you.
out.
I'm so sorry. I know we just met, but like this is your responsibility. Like
you know,
you gotta help your
I've
friend.
learned. I'll be better next time, I promise.
Please do.
Oh, that's
Because
so
a lot of
awesome.
us suffered. We left that movie theater so angry.
Yeah, and and at first, like, you know, I enjoyed the movie Halloween Ends. You know, it wasn't the movie I thought I was gonna see, and once I accepted that, I was like, all right, this was good. I enjoyed this.
Mhm.
And I had to tell him, I was like, this isn't as bad as you're saying it is. Like, shut up. And then he was like, okay, this is, you know, funny. Got some of the cornier parts, but yeah, he was chatting.
Oh,
He brought
wow.
his friends who was also chatting. So I was like, you know,
They have a whole ass podcast behind us.
right. I wish I don't know if he'd be the best person because there's still a lot of like latent anger but from you guys. But I would love to get someone on the air that's a movie theater talker and be like,
why do you do it?
what you're doing?
Right.
Why?
That's
I
what-
would love to find out.
because that's what I kept saying when we left. I was like, what makes you think that I want to hear what you got to say about this? Like we didn't pay, but because I've experienced this before with some people where you pay to see the movie and they're talking and I'm like, bitch, go home and watch the movie and talk then.
And I will say, in his defense, he was not the only person talking. So I think that he was the loudest, but I think that came with a certain level of comfort. You know, the
Oh my
more
gosh.
other people talk, the more you talk. But yeah, he wouldn't quit.
Oh my God, are you so embarrassed right now? You're like,
I'm,
oh my God,
you know.
that's my friend.
Sorry. It's not your fault. We're not
No,
judging you on
listen,
that.
No, this is good. This is a good conversation to have about horror movie etiquette.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Or any movie etiquette. Yes. Yes.
I love it. No, yeah, we all have that friend that does it. Like I have a friend that when we go see movies, he laughs at inappropriate places,
Oh.
and like that's when I stopped going to movies with him years ago when Precious came out, and there was a scene that was like so like heart-wrenching and dramatic, and Monique was just acting her butt off, and he laughed.
Ooh.
I was like, nope, we're no longer. We can't go to movies together anymore. Nope. You too much. So we all have friends. It doesn't
We all know
reflect
that
us.
just happens. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, let's sort of dig into what you talked about, Jason, at the top.
Mhm.
When it comes to, and we've heard this before, in moving to Charlotte, with it being sort of, you know, one of those new southern cities, even though it's not new, but there is that where it doesn't have a lot of history or culture to it. And you all have found that here in Charlotte with hauntings. What all have you found?
Well, there's a lot. So, I mean, there's books on the matter. There's the Charlotte Area Paranormal Society, CAPS, who's like our version of Ghost Hunters. They've done a lot of work, but I mean, if you go outside and you're walking through Uptown or South End, you see historical markers on the side of the street. They're there. They're like, Charlotte does have a very rich history. I personally moved here about 7 years ago, and I was working at a hotel at the time, and like everyone was just saying like, oh, we're tearing down all the old buildings. Charlotte has no history. It's that new city. And as soon as I found like an inkling that they were wrong, I was like, all right, let's start looking into this. And like if you have a library card, you can look at old newspapers and stuff. So for me, all I had to do was like type in the keyword paranormal, and like there's all of this. like 100 years worth of Charlotte Observer articles about what's going on in town. So there's so much out there, but for whatever reason, Charlotte is not like Savannah or Asheville or Wilmington, where they embrace that culture, which I think is silly. So I'm trying to do the best to do it myself.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the most sort of spine-tingling stories that you've seen about Charlotte, or things that have happened here?
Or the ones that might be like, like the main ones. Like, if you know about Charlotte, you should know about this.
Well, I'll take this opportunity to plug. My wife and I do have a podcast. It's called the Old North State Podcast. It is all about North Carolina history and lore, not just Charlotte, but our most recent episode is about 10 haunted locations in Uptown specifically.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So with that being said, the one thing that I try to make sure that everyone knows is that there is an old hotel. It's coming up on its 100-year anniversary within the next few years. It's on the corner of 6th and Tryon. It's called the Dunhill. It is like the only boutique hotel uptown. Like it's gone through a bunch of renovations, so it is like nice and updated, but it's a very old building. And it's changed hands a number of times. And for a period in the 80s, it was left pretty much abandoned. So when they started up renovations again at the end of the 80s, they did find things left behind, one of which being a human skeleton in what used to be the elevator shaft.
Oh.
Yes, so skull intact and everything. It's not the elevator shaft that they have now because the building is, has been renovated. But if you were to go and have a drink at their bar, even tonight, or stay overnight, and ask the staff like what spooky things they've encountered, every single person will have at least one story for you. The overall lore, they have named their guest, or like their paranormal guest, Dusty, the Dunhill Ghost.
Wow.
And he's the entity that they blame for kind of the mischievous stuff. Things getting tossed across the room, items not where you left it, lights flickering on and off, things like that. They'll blame it on Dusty. But there's been other things as well, where people have heard almost witch cackling laughs in the lobby when it's like the overnight person by themselves and they know they're alone. They've seen a specter walking through their banquet space, kind of like they said it's a woman in a white dress with longer black hair. So there's definitely a lot of things that go on in the Dunhill. So if you're out there and you're looking for a spooky place to visit, you have a haunted hotel to stay in.
Wow.
Dang.
Right?
I mean, welcome to town. Here's a ghost.
Wow. Hey, Ghost, how you doing?
Yes.
Dusty, how you doing?
We are talking with Jason, one of the creators of SpookyCLT. Now, have you all actually gone and tried to stay at this hotel?
We did. We stayed there the weekend after our wedding, which was 2 years ago.
Wow.
Our wedding was, believe it or not, on Halloween. So
Ah,
my wedding anniversary is right around the corner.
I love it.
But yeah, we stayed overnight. I will say that it happened to be the day that the AP called Biden as the president-elect. So we did celebrate, and I cannot confirm or deny if anything paranormal happened that night overall, because we celebrated a little. We had too many spirits, if you get what I'm saying.
And that's the best way to really ignore anything that happens.
That's true.
So
He said the ghost was over our bed, but we were passed out
We
drunk,
didn't
so
know.
we all know.
Yeah.
We requested the haunted room, which is 906. We stayed specifically in that room, but yeah, Dusty the Dunhill Ghost could have walked through the room and we would have had no idea.
we were celebrating too. So
Yeah.
We were celebrating, yeah.
Now, have you heard of any sort of possessions happening in the Charlotte area?
So that is an interesting topic. For SpookyCLT, we also do events. And one of the ones that we did this year, at Devil's Logic, I invited a professor of religious studies from UNCC, Sean McLeod. He sat up in front of a crowd with me, and I asked him what his thoughts were about possessions, because he had written a book about possession cases in America. I haven't really come across anything concrete There are rumors of a older house in Uptown that had like the first Vatican sanctioned possession. Can't find that on writing. It is an older house near Old Settler Cemetery. I don't want to say what building it is, because but put two and two together, and I think if you're looking around, you'll figure out which one. But yes, possessions are freaky. But nothing I've seen in the newspaper.
Nothing you came in encounter with.
So overall, I'm a skeptic when it comes to a lot of things. My wife is the one that's more sensitive. So she has had paranormal experiences. The number one thing, and it's a fun story because it happened when we first started dating. She was driving down Beatty's Ford Road away from Uptown. And we were first dating. She said she saw a specter in the middle of the road and she can't explain it. It was near her house, our house now. And a year or two down the road, I was reading a book about Charlotte ghost stories. And there is a story of the ghostwriter of Hopewell, who was a Revolutionary War general, William Lee Davidson. He was shot and killed in the Battle of Cowan's Ford now being underneath Lake Norman. But he was buried at Hopewell Presbyterian along Beatty's Ford Road. And I was like, hey, is this where you saw that ghost? And she was like, yeah, there's right around the turn or right in front of Hopewell Presbyterian. So I kept reading the chapter. A lot of people have seen General Davidson on a ghost riding horseback, right around where she saw a big white specter in front of Hopewell Presbyterian Church. Yeah.
No.
All right, Kelvin, we got to
no.
send you over there, Kelvin. You got to go.
Absolutely.
You gotta go.
That's my biggest fear. It's in every single horror movie. You see something in the middle of the road. I wouldn't even know what to do. Like, I would not know what to do.
So one other cool fact about that is y'all are familiar with the story of the Headless Horseman.
Yes.
Sleepy Hollow, the story written by Washington Irving. He actually wrote about this battle in his book, which was a biography of George Washington. He wrote about General Davidson being shot while horseback. Now, his detail says he was shot with a silver bullet, but all the Revolutionary War people at that time were very poor, so I doubt that they were using silver as bullets. But it is interesting that the same guy who wrote about the Headless Horseman is writing about our ghost horseman here in Charlotte.
All right, Kelvin, when we know what we'll have you do this week, you just got to go over there and just
look around.
Yeah, hold up and see what happens.
You got me effed up.
Now, what are some of the other like sort of spooky places that we have here in Charlotte, Jason?
Yeah, so if you're in the Noda neighborhood, you know where Noda Brewing is on Tryon. A few blocks down, there is the haunted Rosedale plantation, and they actually, they've kept it. It's now like a historical museum site, but they do ghost tours pretty much year round. But definitely this month they had one on last Saturday. So I won't tell you their ghosts because y'all should go there and check it out yourselves. But there is a ghost connected to that, and it's actually on North Davidson. Y'all know Cabo Fish Taco?
I've heard of it. I haven't been there
Not
yet.
haunted, but across the street, there is a stairwell that leads up to, on the right, Mac Tabby Cat Cafe, and on the left is Curio Craft and Conjure, which is a magic shop. And if you walk up the stairs, certain select people who are maybe more sensitive or picked out by this ghost, but if you walk up the stairs, you can hear someone walking right behind you. So Rosedale says that it was actually one of their employees from back in the day. He also worked in that old building that's on North Davidson. But if you walk up those steps, you can still hear someone behind you. And I definitely recommend going because on the right, cats and coffee. On the left are magic items. Like, what else do you need?
Right.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Now,
I asked the people at Curio Craft and Conjure what they thought of him, and they say it's the spirit of the store, that he typically walks behind females, and he's just a protective spirit.
Oh, all right, Holly. I thought he was about to be creepy, but no, he's just trying to keep a woman safe.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let me see them cheeks, girl. Let me see that booty. Yeah.
Don't you speak ill of that Spectre,
Don't
Miguel,
do it, Bob.
coming for you. Mm-mm.
Now, have you like heard the differences? Like, what are like? Obviously, you said that's a protective ghost or
Mhm.
spirit. What are some of like the evil spirits that you've heard about or encountered yourself, or ghosts?
Yeah, so I mean, just as a broad view, there are 4 types of hauntings that people can talk about pretty regularly. There's residual, which is like kind of like Dusty. He lived at the hotel, died at the hotel, and now he continues to hang out there, probably doing the same things that he was doing in his death. Then there's intelligent, where a spirit understands that it's dead and can communicate with what's going on in the world currently. There is poltergeist, which is, like the movie Haunted House, a lot of things going on. It's typically brought on by like high energy moments. I think this is why a lot of restaurant and bars are haunted, just because there's so much going on all the time. And then there is inhuman, so like spirits that have never been human on Earth. So what people would say demons are, what people would say guardian angels are, or like forest spirits, things like that. So your question was about like more of the evil stuff. I do get people who submit me things that have happened to them on the Instagram account. It's tricky because, as y'all probably have figured out, people don't always tell you the truth online. But with me opening myself up to hearing these ghost stories all the time, like it's either I have to believe that you're telling me for a reason.
Right.
There are people who have experienced things. A lot of people who live near like cemeteries and stuff will claim that they have spirits in the house, and that can affect them in different ways, being weird dreams, like just the vibes being off, things like that, or even in like cases like physical things like sicknesses that are brought on, or like scratches you'll see. There is a story about an apartment complex in Uptown, and I'll leave their name out, but it's like the information for it is online. They're still active today, but they had a fire back in the 40s. And a number of people died in the fire. It was so bad that like people were jumping out of their windows to get out of it. But to this day, people are still claiming to have dreams of burning walls. They'll hear like knocking on the walls or on their doors. Some people say that it sounds less of like a knocking and more of someone throwing their body against the wall.
Oh my God.
And like if you look back in the newspapers, you'll find a story of a woman who was found dead next to her bed in a praying position. She was trapped in her room, couldn't get out. And people to this day have mentioned seeing her by name. I don't know if they've read that newspaper article like I have, or if they were told to by the ghost, but yeah, it's she is still in that apartment complex, I believe.
So if you're listening to this, the silence you hear are all 3 of our mouths open and our eyes wide right now as Jason is telling us these stories.
Eyes get watery.
And I have super goosebumps.
Good.
Miguel, is it your apartment complex?
What apartment complex in Uptown?
No, he can't tell you.
I live in Uptown.
It's named after the street that it's on, if that makes sense. Can I say it?
Yeah, go ahead and say it.
Yeah,
It's the Tryon House Apartments.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, it's not Miguel's.
Okay.
There you go.
Woo! All right, thank you. I just got real nervous right there. Now, Jason,
Yes.
do you feel like because you and your wife are so into the macabre and the scary, do you feel like things are attracted to you more so? Like, have you feel like you've experienced more things than normal people?
So that's complicated because you open yourself up to it. Like we're in spooky mode all the time. We were just on vacation actually, and we went on a ghost tour in the Outer Banks because that's what we do on our vacations. And there, my wife was sitting next to me, and a dog was running up. And because we were in like this mode, her first thought was like, "Oh my gosh, it's the Beast of Bladenborough, like this cryptid from that area." And then we realized it was a dog just playing fetch. So her mind went straight to this is a cryptid vampire cat that hasn't been seen in 80 years, but is now revealing itself while we're sitting on this bench. But no, it's just a dog. I will say though, for me personally, something weird just happened a few months ago. I was speaking at Con Carolina, which is like a smaller convention, and they had a paranormal aspect to it this year. So I spoke on a few of their panels. One of the things that I was speaking on was Ouija boards. And if you were to ask me a few months ago, I would say that there's nothing inherently evil about Ouija boards. What you have in front of you is a piece of painted cardboard or wood or whatever. It's what you put into it, what you get out of it. So if you go in being like, oh gosh, I'm going to be, possessed by a demon, they may hear that and be like, all right, this is my chance. But if you go in being like, this is fake, nothing's going to happen, I felt that way until the rest of that weekend and the week after that. Like I had brought my own Ouija board into this convention, said all that stuff, and then I brought it home with me. And the rest of the week, vibes were off in our house. Both my wife and I, we were having weird dreams, unpleasant ones. The cats were going crazy in the house, just like constantly having what you call like the zoomies, but like screaming at each other. And they'll do that, but like this was excessive. And then what pushed me over the limit is one night I was in bed and my hand was hanging over the side of the bed, which I know is a rookie mistake.
I was about to say, why would you do such a thing?
Well, my wife's pregnant, so I have very little room on the bed, a lot of pillows on there. So my hands was hanging off, and I felt something just touch the back of it. And like I said, I have cats, but they ran into the room after that happened as if they were checking on something. So I knew it wasn't them. My heart was racing the rest of the night. The next day, we saged the house. We saged the Ouija board. We put it in the attic.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I have not been telling people that Ouija boards are something that you can just like casually mess with.
That's probably best.
A learning lesson for me. And granted, like I said, I'm a skeptic. I understand that those could have been all completely unrelated events.
Very possible.
But like now that I've had that experience, I'm like, I'm not opening myself up to that again.
Right.
Would y'all consider getting rid of the Ouija board?
She's had it. It was my wife's. She's had it since she was a kid, and it's glow in the dark. Apparently, it's like a collector's item.
Right.
So we'll keep it. But also, I'm afraid if I throw it away, it's just gonna pop up, under the covers or something weird like that.
Be like Annabelle, just keep coming back over and over again in different places.
Exactly.
I've done Ouija before.
You said you what?
I did Ouija before, but it was my friend moving it. So I too am a skeptic, but I dare not speak. About it.
Look behind you, Kelvin.
Girl, it's behind you. You should be scared. For those watching on camera.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
So what would you say are like your top like scary movies to watch, Jason?
I've been a fan. My name is Jason, so like I've been a fan of scary movies from the get-go, and I'm the youngest of 4 boys in my family. So like one of my first memories was Friday the 13th. I think it was New Blood, where like the psychic is killing Jason Voorhees and he busts out of the stairwell. Like that was one of my first memories as a person. So it makes sense that I'm here having this conversation with you today. But that's a loaded question. I will say the Scream franchise is one of my favorites. And I think that's because it's a classic, but also every time they make a new one, it is a reflection of the horror movies that are coming out at that time. So the first one, was a deconstruction of the slasher movie. The second one was a deconstruction of sequels. The most recent one that came out this year, filmed in Wilmington, by the way. That was, it was like a almost satire of all of the movies that are coming out that are based off the first one of, just like Halloween's Ends trilogy. They're ignoring everything in between and focusing on the first one. A cool connection about Scream 2022 or whenever it came out is that in that opening scene where they're having the original that conversation, like what's your favorite scary movie? Right when he says that, you can see on her counter is this little bottle of barbecue sauce. It's called Ogre sauce, and Ogre sauce is made in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh,
very
what
cool.
a fun Easter egg!
Yeah.
I love that. thought you were gonna be like, it was someone who had been killed in barbecue sauce years ago.
No, just some good old barbecue.
Good old barbecue sauce.
No, and then on the topic of horror movies, and I always try to bring things back to Charlotte. There was one horror movie in particular. It's part of the Hellraiser series. The newer one just came out on Hulu.
Mhm.
Once again, a requel, like Scream was talking about. But the final scene of the Hellraiser 3 is filmed at the corner of Trade and Tryon.
Oh,
And you know, like those big gold discs that are on that corner, like that big one. It's looks like a record player. That's in that scene, like the final scene. And if you know anything about like the Hellraiser series, it's all based around this cube that if like you do the puzzle, it brings out these, you know, crazy interdimensional demons. At the end of the movie, it's been out for 40 years, so this isn't a spoiler. They drop the cube into a construction site, and then they allude to like the Bank of America building on Trade and Tryon, that the cube is built into the base of it. And that now that building is part of the lore of the cube. It has all like the same designs and stuff. So if you watch that movie, it was filmed in Greensboro, but that last scene is filmed in Charlotte. You will recognize places in it.
That's so cool that Charlotte's like a
Wild.
part of that franchise.
Yeah. Mhm.
I had no clue, and that freaks me out. Wow. What's a ghost tour that you recommend here in Charlotte if someone's like, I'm gonna do it, I'm scared, but this is the time to finally do a ghost tour?
Well, you have two options, or you may have more options, but there's the Carolina History and Haunts. It was, it's year round. It brings you to all the places in Uptown within walking distance. It was actually one of my wife and I first dates, as you can imagine.
Nice.
I want to see pictures from y'all's wedding. I bet that it was like a horror, or was it like themed Halloween?
Well, yes. So our wedding was supposed to be in March 2020. And then the world shut down. So we pushed it back to October. The only date available for our venue was October 31st. My wife had originally been like, I want a Halloween wedding. And I was like, no, like I want to do something spooky that day. In the end, she got what she wanted. But we had the location. She got all these new decorations and themes. We carved 11 pumpkins that were like, you know, along the windows. We had it at a historic location in Lincolnton, and they just happened to have Halloween decorations in their basement. So when we were down there day of, like pulling out chairs and stuff, I'm like, can we borrow these? I am on TikTok at SpookyCLT, and I do have a recent TikTok, which is like a bunch of shots of it.
That's awesome.
It was a spooky wedding.
I love
That's so
that.
cool.
So, yeah, I got to see pictures. Oh yeah, and you were saying the other.
Yes. So
sorry,
Carolina History and Haunts, and then there's actually a haunted bar crawl that you can do. So that is Nightly Spirits, and they'll take you to a bunch of haunted bars in Uptown.
That
You'll have to take the tour to find out which ones I'm talking about.
And is that
Nice.
running all the time, or is it just something special
Yeah.
for this?
No, I believe so. I'm friends with one of the tour guides, and she's been doing it for pretty much all year.
I love it. Well, so if someone is like, you know what, I want to join Spooky CLT, what are some of all the things that you all do or people can take a part of?
Well, so it's, you know, like I said, I want it to be a resource for people. So I don't want to tell you everything that's spooky about Charlotte. I want to tell you the basics and then have you find, you know, things yourself. So there's books out there that I'll talk about. I want you to go out and buy those books and read them yourself. There are podcasts about stories that are specific to Charlotte, even if it's not a Charlotte podcast. So I want to inspire people to find something that they enjoy about Charlotte history and culture as well. For me, it's ghost stories.
That is
That's so
fantastic.
awesome. And you can find all of your stuff on Instagram, right?
Yep. That's the main thing I focus on. Facebook scares me.
Yeah.
That's the
everything.
spooky. Okay, exactly.
Right.
So, Jason, how can people find you on Instagram and your podcast and anything else you want to promote?
Yeah, SpookyCLT on Instagram. There's also SpookyCLT.com. And then our Instagram is the Old North State Podcast. And then on that, it's the Old North State Pod on Instagram. So anywhere you can find podcasts.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, Jason from SpookyCLT, thank you so much for sending some shivers down our spine.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we will see you later. And be careful with that friend when you bring him to movies next time.
I've learned my lesson.
Poor guy. Thank you. Oh my gosh. So that is, I had no clue that there was so much history there to everything. That's so awesome to hear.
Spookalicious.
Wow.
I did not like
Very
that try-on apartment building story.
Why?
It's actually permanently closed.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I Googled it right now. It's
Mm.
had really shitty reviews.
Oh,
Oh no.
and they closed down.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that stuff always freaks me out. It's like I want to hear more, but then I get nervous to hear it, and I'm just like, tell me more. But I'm just gonna look between like my fingers open. Some of the comments that we got, Amy, I see weird things in my office. I also see and hear things in my house.
Girl.
I feel something bump my bed about 5 times a month. I hear voices and see dark shadows often. Girl, what is going on,
Maybe you
Amy?
should fix that. Do something.
I'm about to say we need to
that.
get you a ghost hunter or something to go figure that out.
I know.
Anybody have anything else before we head out?
No.
I'm hungry.
I'm also hungry. I'm a little tired. Maya's still off at school.
Oh.
This has been the longest no school break where I didn't plan anything. I need to just go home and take care of that.
Okay.
Bye, y'all.
Miguel and Holly Uncensored.
Catch it on the iHeartRadio app or anywhere you listen to podcasts.